Let us cast our minds back, not to the familiar woods where Lucy Pevensey first stepped through a wardrobe, but further still, to the very dawn of that enchanted land, and to the children whose choices ripple through its long history. Our story begins not in Narnia itself, but in the smoky sprawl of London, during a summer drowsy with heat and the scent of horse-drawn carriages. Here lived a young girl named Polly Plummer, sensible and adventurous in equal measure. Her world expanded greatly when a boy named Diggory Kirke came to live next door, lodging with his rather eccentric Aunt Letty and Uncle Andrew. Diggory was a boy burdened by sorrow, for his mother lay gravely ill miles away, and his father served the king in far-off India. He found solace in Polly's companionship, and together they embarked on the grandest adventure available to them, exploring the dusty, interconnected attics that ran like a secret highway above the row houses. Their explorations, fueled by youthful curiosity, led them one fateful afternoon not to the abandoned endhouse they sought, but through a wrong door into a silent, book-lined study they instantly knew was forbidden territory. It was the lair of Diggory's Uncle Andrew Ketterlee, a man with long fingers, a sharp nose, and eyes that held a gleam of unsettling enthusiasm mixed with profound cowardice. He was, though the children did not immediately grasp the full danger, a dabbler in magic, clumsy and self-serving. Uncle Andrew, finding the children in his sanctum, saw not intruders but test subjects. With sly words and false charm, he persuaded Polly to touch a bright yellow ring, promising some vague delight. The moment her finger contacted the metal, she vanished utterly, leaving Diggory aghast. Uncle Andrew then revealed his dubious achievement. The rings were instruments of travel, not through space, but between worlds. The yellow rings drew one away, while green rings, he theorized, brought one back. Faced with the terrible choice of abandoning his friend or venturing into the unknown, Diggory, clutching a pair of green rings along with a yellow one for himself, bravely touched the yellow ring and followed Polly into oblivion. He did not find himself in darkness, but in a strange, silent woodland bathed in a soft, drowsy light. Small, placid pools dotted the landscape, each seeming to hum with a quiet potential. The air was thick and still, inducing a dreamlike forgetfulness. Here he found Polly, dazed but unharmed. This was the wood between the worlds, a nexus point, a place that was not truly a place at all, but a connection between countless realities, each pool a doorway. Curiosity overcoming caution, they chose a pool different from the one they had arrived through and plunged in. They emerged into a chillingly different reality. Before them stretched a vast, ancient city under a dying, ruby-red sun. Utter silence reigned. Great courtyards lay empty, immense halls stood crumbling, and a sense of profound age and utter finality hung heavy in the cold air. This was the world of Charn. Drawn by an irresistible pull, they explored a magnificent, decaying palace. Within a grand hall, they discovered rows upon rows of figures seated on thrones, clad in regal attire, their faces not merely still, but frozen with an unnerving blend of pride and despair. They were the former kings and queens of Charn, held in an enchanted slumber. At the hall's center stood a small golden bell and a hammer, accompanied by a verse that promised dire consequences for striking it, yet whispered powerfully to the temptation inherent in such a mystery. Polly, sensing the deep wrongness of the place, urged Diggory to leave. But Diggory, partly driven by a boyish desire to defy fear, partly by a deeper, unnamed impulse, succumbed. He struck the bell. The sound began softly, then swelled to a deafening, shattering crescendo that seemed to crack the very stones of the palace. As the echoes died, one of the figures stirred. The last queen, taller and more terribly beautiful than all the others. Her name was Jadis. She awoke with an imperious arrogance, her eyes burning with cold fire. She recounted the history of Charn, a tale of power struggles and devastating magic, culminating in her uttering the deplorable word, a spell of ultimate destruction that extinguished all life in her world save her own, rather than yield power to her sister. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was the beauty of sterility and death. Realizing the monumental folly of his act, Diggory frantically sought escape. As he and Polly grasped their yellow rings, Jadis, perceiving their method of travel and eager to conquer new realms, seized Polly's hair at the last instant. They tumbled back into the wood between the worlds, dragging the malevolent queen with them. A moment of panicked confusion, a scramble for the green rings, and they plunged once more, aiming for the familiar grime of London. They succeeded, but Jadis came too. London was utterly unprepared for a sorceress of her power and temperament. Emerging near Ketterlee House, she quickly terrified Uncle Andrew, bending him to her will with displays of strength and disdain. She demanded riches and transport fit for a queen, leading to a chaotic sequence where she ripped a crossbar from a lamppost, enchanted a handsome cab horse named Strawberry, and caused havoc through the streets, pursued by the bewildered cab driver, Frank, and a growing crowd. In desperation, Diggory and Polly resolved to send her back, anywhere but London. Amidst the escalating chaos near their homes, they managed to grab hold of Jadis. In the melee, Uncle Andrew, the cabbie Frank, and even Strawberry the horse were caught in the magical pull as Diggory activated the rings. Their intended destination was Charn, but in their haste, they plunged not into the red light of the dying world, nor the green of the wood, but into utter, velvety blackness. Nothingness. Here, in the void, a sound began. Not the destructive clang of Charn's bell, but a voice, deep and resonant, singing in the darkness. As the voice sang, stars bloomed into existence like scattered diamonds. A sun ignited, revealing rolling hills and nascent rivers forming below. The voice sang the land itself into being, grass spreading like a carpet, trees rising, flowers bursting forth. This was the creation of Narnia. From the fertile earth, animals emerged, summoned by the song. Then, the singer, a great lion with eyes like pools of ancient wisdom and a mane like spun gold, walked among them. This was Aslan. He breathed upon chosen pairs of beasts, granting them the gift of speech and reason, establishing them as the talking beasts of Narnia. Jadis, witnessing this act of pure creation, felt only hatred and fear. She hurled the iron crossbar she still carried towards Aslan. It struck him harmlessly and fell to the ground, where, in Narnia's fertile soil, it immediately took root and began to grow into a lamppost, the very lamppost Lucy would one day encounter. Recognizing a power utterly antithetical to her own, Jadis fled northwards into the wilderness. Uncle Andrew, meanwhile, terrified by the talking beasts and the lion, cowered in fear, unable to comprehend the wonder around him. Aslan then turned his attention to the others. He acknowledged the simple goodness of the cabbie, Frank, and seeing his honest heart, called forth his wife, Helen, from London. To these humble Londoners, Aslan offered the lordship of his new creation. Crowned King Frank and Queen Helen, they became the first rulers of Narnia, their reign marked by kindness and simplicity. The horse Strawberry, having faithfully served, was also transformed by Aslan's power, sprouting magnificent wings and becoming Fledge, the father of all Pegasi. But a shadow lay upon the newly formed world, the shadow of Jadis. Aslan knew her evil presence was a direct consequence of Diggory's action in Charn. He turned to the boy, not in anger, but with a solemn task. To protect Narnia from the witch's immediate corruption, Diggory must undertake a quest. He was to fly on the newly winged sledge, accompanied by Polly, far to the west, to a hidden garden atop a green hill, protected by high walls. There, he must pluck a single silver apple from a special tree and bring it back, without tasting it himself. The journey on sledge was one of awe and wonder, soaring over the pristine landscape of the young world. They found the garden, its gates inscribed with a warning poem. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of the silver apples, shimmering on their branches. As Diggory reached for the designated fruit, he encountered Jadis once more. She had eaten one of the apples, gaining unnatural, deathless life, but her face now held a terrible pallor. She tempted Diggory, urging him to eat an apple himself, to gain endless life, or better yet, to take one back to London to heal his dying mother, twisting his love into a tool for corruption. It was a moment of agonizing choice. The longing to save his mother warred with the knowledge of Aslan's command and the inherent wrongness of Jadis's suggestion. Remembering Aslan's eyes, and strengthened perhaps by Polly's silent presence nearby, Diggory resisted the temptation. He refused Jadis, plucked the single apple as instructed, and rejoined Polly and Fledge, leaving the witch thwarted within the garden walls. They flew back to Aslan, delivering the precious apple. Aslan commended Diggory's faithfulness in the face of temptation. He then instructed Diggory to plant the apple near the great river. Instantly, a magnificent tree sprang up, its fruit radiant, its scent potent. This, Aslan declared, was the tree of protection. Its very presence would repel Jadis, keeping her confined to the wild northern lands for many long years, safeguarding the heart of Narnia. The stolen immortality Jadis gained from the forbidden fruit would become her curse, tying her fate to Narnia, yet barring her from its deepest joys. Aslan, in his wisdom and kindness, understood Diggory's heart. He gave the boy an apple from this newly planted tree, explaining that while it could not grant immortal life in our world, its magic held the power of healing. He then sent the children, along with the still bewildered and shrunken Uncle Andrew, back to the wood between the worlds and thence home to London. Back in the quiet of Diggory's room, he gave the Narnian apple to his ailing mother. Its potent life magic worked swiftly, restoring her to health and bringing joy back into their home. The core of the apple Diggory planted in the back garden, burying the dangerous magic rings beside it, sealing that pathway between worlds. The apple core grew into a fine tree, larger and more vibrant than any ordinary apple tree, whispering, perhaps, of its otherworldly origins. Years passed. Diggory grew up, his mother remained well, and eventually, he inherited the Ketterlee house. A great storm eventually blew down the magnificent tree. Loath to waste its wood, remembering its origins and the wonders he had seen, Diggory had it fashioned into a large, ornate wardrobe. This wardrobe was placed in his country house, standing silent for many years, waiting for other children, seeking refuge from a different kind of darkness, to push open its doors and discover the enduring magic of the land born from a lion's song, a land forever marked by the choices of a magician's nephew.